Director. Hey Eva, how you doing? Oh, there we go. What's up, Eva? I got you next.
It's
Hey,
connected. It's
Savannah.
connected. I still feel so weird about the technology. Like, will it work or it will not?
How is it gonna work? I mean, it's all we have now. It's like we have, so we make the best out of it, and I feel like people
It's like post post-apocalyptical positive thinking. This is all we have now.
are absolutely. You know what? That's the hashtag actually. So I'm gonna keep that.
Hmm.
It's really nice. So everybody, I want to welcome my guest, Woo Woman, Libana.
Yeah. Hello,
She's
everybody.
she's a kung fu visionary, world champion martial artist, actor, and director. I had the pleasure of meeting her a couple years ago on a project um, for Oscillations, and she was one of the guests. What an amazing performance artist, and we all came together as a collective to create content for VR technology. And met her then, and we've been in touch ever since, and dialogue and communication. And she will bless you with her wisdom and her knowledge on.
You know what I was just thought? Thank you for the announcement. I just thought that the project on which we met was oscillations, right? So it's neuroscience, right? And creating of an artificial sensory experience, right? Through reconstructing the way a person would be experiencing people performing in front of, right? And
Yes,
it's interesting that, like fast forward 2+, right? Two plus years, not one, two 2+ years. We are across the country, okay, not the world, so it's not as dramatic.
yeah,
And we are in the circumstance when we're confined, you know, within rooms, basically, right? And then right now we're having experiences with each other, as well as we're facilitating experiences for people in the rooms elsewhere across the world. I just feel that's so interesting that, 2 years ago, it was creating the artificial, the imaginary reality,
yeah,
sensory experience. And right now we are also creating something of this nature.
absolutely. So it's like full circle, full circle.
Mm, Well, I just can only imagine, I really like thinking about what is the future version of myself is doing, considering I believe in reality being multi-layered, so everything exists at the same time. So us in Chicago, right, in the house where we lived, and where we had the conversations about the nature of the movement and the experience, right? So I like to think that that moment exists in the very moment where right now we are talking to you in the imaginary, again, space, the
Absolutely.
shared space that we're having. And when you said things went full circle, I'm wondering what's going to happen in the future segment of the story, you know?
I think that's up to us to decide our own fate and how we're going to use this technology. I believe like how we use it is going to set the next stage. Like I feel now everybody is really connecting more now than ever because of this situation everybody's indoors. So you're forced to be inside. You're forced to really connect more now. I feel like we were connected but not connecting, and now we're connecting more now than ever. And so I think it's again, I feel it's up to us to lay that foundation. You do it in your own way, your online courses, online chats or talks, and I'm doing it my way. And I feel like that's going to inspire other people to create a new change as a collective. But that's just my opinion.
I was also, thinking, my academic background is in psychology. And one of the reasons I never pursued this as a calling is because psychology, especially in the sense of the way it was taught based on post-Soviet, system, not to go into too much details, it's basically analyzing what's wrong with people, and that was never something that I aspired to do. Art art urged me into creating the experiences for myself, even through the experience that wasn't so pleasant. Anyway, it's all like I'm going in circles. The point the point is, right now, 2 weeks ago, the conversations and the nature of connection online looked certain way, and then another week when people spend more time, in solitary confinement, there's different.
But
I like how you reacted.
I know everybody's taking it different ways. It could be a prison for some people, and some, and for some it could be like heaven or liberation. So it's all.
I actually, well, I just use this, I use these words, but for somebody it could be a Vipassana experience, it would be a forced Vipassana experience. What I'm saying is, I've started noticing that people are asking different questions and talking about different topics,
Mhm.
and it's not all shallow anymore.
Yeah, it's deeper.
That's what I'm experiencing, and this is this is a very interesting and exciting thing to see, because my use of social media has been like, I monitor that because I try not to look a lot because I become disappointed. So,
Well, I can tell that you're taking this situation very well. So just ask.
but do we have a choice? Do we have a choice?
We have no choice. No, we have no choice but to be forced into this situation, and we're forced to, in, in a sense, grow up and evolve in a lot of different ways that we've always kind of like didn't cover before. So I think it's great. Like, of course, I have my challenges and my questions, and I'm dealing with my own things too as well. But I think it's a great thing for all of us to learn, and everybody's learning on different levels. So.
I have a question, right? I told you I have a question for you. I'm really interested in the reason people have for everything they do, how your reason manifests on a day-to-day life. You know what I mean? One thing is to have a reason. Let's say an athlete wants to be the best in something, wants to achieve, and they have a reason to inspire people. It could be obviously deeper reasons, but there's also ways in how the reason manifests in everyday life, because your practice is really demanding.
Yes. Answer your question. My reason is I just have a calling. I just know what I have to do. I just have this download and this blueprint. Nobody tells what to do. I just know what I have to do. And I had the vision about 15 years ago of my calling, and the technology didn't exist. There was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, no Twitter, nothing like that. But I foresaw myself being in the future doing what I'm doing. And it wasn't until Instagram when it came and I made my first post that I understood that there was a confirmation, that I had the vision years prior. And in that moment when I posted my first photo and that photo went viral online, I knew that it was like my calling. So that re-inspired everything. So I just know what I have to do. Nobody tells me. I just have this feeling and this sense, and I'm very in tune with my mind, body, and spirit. I'm very in tune. I listen to my body. I listen to my higher self, my intuition, and I just act on it. And I feel like this knowledge that comes to me. I'm like, Lamont, you have to do this. Okay, you have to focus on that. You have to create this. You have to do this. Do that. It's like there's no second guess. I just know what I have to do, and I have the blessings of having this ability, just knowing and being very in tune. I hope that answers your question.
It did, I'm truly interested to know, the reason behind people's action, especially consistent actions. And also, I believe that we live in the times that is a truly a visionary time.
Absolutely.
So between the moment, the conception of idea, the moment of envisioning the idea and its realization, the slot of timing in between has a potential to be much shorter than before because of the very specific external things such as technology, but as well as the way we compute the ideas with potential ways of executing it. I think it became faster for those whose cognition is still working,
Way,
obviously.
yeah, way, way faster. And I feel like, we'll call it God, the creator, the Akash, whatever, whatever you believe in. I feel like this entity gives you gifts, and I feel like it's your duty to use them. Like everybody has a gift in their own way, and I feel like you have to act on it. And if you don't, I feel like you're doing like a service for yourself and to humanity. So I act on what I'm receiving and what I have. That's it. I just try to simplify it, you know. Like you act on what you believe in and what you have and you're manifesting what you're creating, what you're training for. Nobody's telling you to do it. You just have this calling in a sense to like really cultivate that and really get to it. So
Well, that's to hear. I have like an interesting thing to actually talk about because you're saying nobody telling me to do this, right? But there's also like a thin line because I understand that for me, for the purpose of having my own experience, such as practice and contemplation and the expansion through my movement and my practice, I don't really need to share it with other people. I could just be in that and experience and having this sensory and spiritual experience, within myself. So in that sense, I I am becoming this, I am the internal being that is experiencing this, but I'm also external being that says, okay, how about we contribute this? How about we share the experience? How about we enrich the world with another new vehicle of expressing the emotions? And it will be new for everybody because it's something that went through my cognition, my consciousness, and my physical spacesuit. Yeah, so and then the system and the way I express myself through the martial movement, this could be beneficial and a gift, but this is not something that came originally to me. Like you had the vision of how would it look like and the process which you're going to use to share it with the world. So it was this complete vision that you had, from what I understand.
I mean, I can say just to add on that, I could say that it was a seed. It was planted, but it evolved, and it evolved through me experiences with different people and being inspired by different things. So it wasn't like I had this whole vision of this thing, but the idea was planted that I wanted to create a movement and to inspire the world. And it was through different departments of my training, but it was just a thought and a seed, and it evolved over time through experience with different people. I was inspired by so many things, so that's why my practice is always going to advance and evolve. It's never going to be the same 1 year, and it's meant to evolve because other people will be included and then add their own elements to
Yeah, contribution of
exactly
thought and
you know like going from the iPhone 1 to the iPhone 12, and then within that there's apps. So it just kind of just evolves, like it just evolves and it never stops. So yeah, that's just my process. So back to you.
I mean, it was equally about me as
Yeah.
it was about you, I think, you
Yeah.
know.
Can we talk about your story, where you come from, how you got to where you are? Um, Can we touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go that direction.
Let's go.
Um,
This is you. This is for my
wh-
getting to know who you are and you know.
well, you see, this story has a different segments that I would call uh, separate lives. So there was a life before I moved to China, and there was a life in China, which was an absolutely different universe, as you may imagine. It's a different country, right? And it's also not a democratic country, not to say too much. And
Yeah.
and then here we go. I'm here, and coronavirus. Yeah, I know.
Coronavirus
So
fear.
so maybe it's going to be a fourth life, woman coronavirus era. I mean, actually, it's not very funny, but it is. I'm just trying to look at things with you know the appropriate humor. Otherwise it becomes sad because I start thinking that everything is a struggle and you gotta fight for everything. So this is my way of balancing things. So I was born in Crimea. um, I really want to make really bad joke, but I think I won't, because in America very often when I say I was born in Crimea, they say where it is. And this is when I want to make a bad joke, so I'm not gonna do it. I'm trying.
Okay, I want you to be yourself.
Well, I mean, basically, if you're listening to this in recording or live and you don't know where Crimea is, I hope you understand what bad joke I wanted to say.
Someone,
Anyway,
someone
uh,
wrote TEYNYNV. Marshall said, "Do it." So they want to hear it.
okay, American sense of geography is awful and very, very sad. And I think that most people have to be ashamed, because it's
True.
important to know at least a little bit, where things are. And when they say Russia and Soviet Union and Ukraine is all the same, and like Soviet Union is Soviet, one word,
Hmm.
union, united, right? So it means there was a lot of countries that came together and it was a union. That's why, anyway. But we talked about this with you a lot, so you know exactly. Hmm?
I didn't know until my girlfriend educated me on, there's Ukraine, there's so
I
much.
know, but think about it, like if somebody, I don't know, if somebody confused, Canada with France, right? And say that that's the same thing. This is probably the same. This is how it works. And predominantly Americans usually would say something like this. That's why. But so the thing is that I was born in Crimea. It was a part of Soviet Union, and then um, Soviet collapsed and it became Ukraine. So what was in between of all of that? It was the biggest um, political, basically, revolution. So the system that existed before, it wasn't. And the way it manifested is in Crimea, there was basically no industries working, coronavirus, something very familiar, no industries working, no heat, no water, doing homework with the candlelight, So,
Uh,
yeah, so when you're growing up with this, you are very, very fast introduced to uh, and also, like, there's a lot of things that you can't say, and there's no freedom of speech, even though Soviet collapsed. But you don't know what is the freedom of speech, so you're introduced to something that's not. So this was the beginning. And since the age of 4, I remember having dreams about China. And how did I know that it was China? Well, I didn't. Up until, yeah, somebody says that we had water like 3 days a week in the 90s.
what?
I mean,
What?
I recall stuff, but I recall when we sometimes didn't have water. Sometimes we didn't. We would collect the water in the glass, like a bucket, and then we would heat it up on the stove. It was like it was like a celebration, you know, I don't know, something important needed to happen because you need to work in that several hours. Then you heat it up on the stove and then you put it to the bathtub so you
Wow.
can have a bath. But this was like a celebration kind of thing because it's like several hours to make it work. So when you grew up like this, you're kind of happy with very little things. Like I'm still like, I don't know, shower really excites me somehow.
Um,
It always been like this, you know?
yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So when I was 4, I was seeing these dreams about China, and I didn't know that it was China up until a little later than 4. Um, and then when I was in Xi'an city, it's the old capital of China at the age of 22-ish. I remembering those dreams from when I was a child. And then the way I started the movement is I started imitating things. So I wasn't like, I grew up, I didn't have TV when I grew up. You know, I had it a little later, like maybe as a teenager, but I didn't grow any desire to watch TV because, you know, it was like a foreign, it
Or-
was a foreign thing because I did not grow up having that. Um, yeah, so I started imitating, and my mom, I said, I just want this. And she was like, okay, it looks like, you know. So we're talking after Soviet collapse. So we're not talking about civilization. We're talking about very, very small Crimean thing, you know, like when you take old buses and stuff. So she found this place where I could practice, and this is how it started. And then, you know, I think I was like 11 and my mom get really sick. So one person, and I needed to work to keep training, you know. So life was already, you know. So
wow.
it was an interesting thing. And then after that, I had this um, freakish idea that I want to become a psychologist. So I think it subconsciously was like, if I was psychology, maybe major, maybe I helped my mom or something. I think it was at that time, it was a childhood thing. So while I'm training and I'm becoming a national champion and all of that, you know, it kind of went together with a very tough life situation, you know. So it wasn't really like a path towards this movement. It was more like movement was this anesthetic to life, and at the same time it was the way to express myself in some ways I couldn't, and at the same time it was the way to explore life in ways that I didn't feel appropriate. So I was basically, you know, very good academically always. So I got grant from the government. So that's why I graduated from with 2 degrees, you know, and it was also like faster. And then 2009, I think. I will not be like for sure with dates because, you know, I don't want to say something inaccurate because the first World Championship in China that I participated in, that one, it was where I got the bronze medal, was in 2010. But I believe that my first contract with the move to China was at least in 2009. So by 2008, I already felt very strongly. And I lived between the capital of Ukraine, which is Kiev, and the middle of Ukraine, where my university still was. So how it worked between those 2 places, there is a train running. So I had to imagine I come to the capital of Ukraine, I would train. I lived at the gym at that time. I would train and practice. And then in the nighttime, I would take this train and I would go to the middle of Ukraine to Nikolaev city. And the next day I will be passing exams and everything. And then I would do the same, you know, and I don't know how I survived that times. And yeah, no, the story is long, but I told you it's lives.
It's not too long. Please share. People. That's why I have you on because everybody is uniquely different, and I want to share that. So please, like, I don't care how.
Yeah, well, and then I could see that, you know, Ukraine becomes, I could feel everything is like life was already kind of like difficult from the start, and then Ukraine felt really, really like going in deeper and deeper chaos. And at that time, um,
We have some questions. There are coops and a place where everyone sleeps. Those are fun. And different
yeah,
I train waves 200. Is this one of your friends?
no, I don't, I mean, no, I mean, like, yes, I
Andy,
don't know who it is.
thanks for sharing. Okay.
Thank you for sharing. So, you know, very relatable. Well, basically, I started looking into because I really wanted to participate in traditional world championships. And I could completely see at that time that Federation wasn't supporting me in ways I believe and proved eventually to be deserving of. And I went and I performed in a couple of places in Europe. And then I was touring in Antalya, and the show was like very small. It was a stage of Hilton Hotel. I mean, small, as I'm saying, it wasn't a theater or something. And then I was noticed by Shanghai theater representatives. And at that time, I was less fusion, more martial artsy,
Hmm.
you know, but it was still very my take. It was a woman that didn't know she was a woman. And they invited me to work, and this is how I moved to China. So I worked at the theater, and then I stayed in China, and first competitions, then, you know, I signed with the representatives, and I did films, TV.
Uh,
Then I transitioned into directing commercials. Yeah, so
I was
basically the reason I started directing commercials there because I really didn't want to like do things that were really, really stupid, you know, like in terms of like I felt that I should just like know better. And then I pitched my first commercial living in the city of Shenzhen. This is where all the innovations being made. And I was just very lucky that people loved my writing. And because I believe at that time I haven't had ego connected to being the best, you know, because I just wanted to do something creatively and make money. And you know, when your ego is not attached, there is always a potential to make something great, you know. And this is, I've also started directing a lot, like short subject commercials, and this gave me like a lot of freedom in between of bigger projects to keep building the woman, you know, contemplating the woman. And then at some point I had a TV show on China Central TV, you know, the Real Kung Fu Experience. It was also very, very fun and very, very scripted,
okay.
which is, you know, that's why we've discussed with you that I wanted to maybe interview people at some point, because I want to know how it feels like when it's not scripted, you know?
Good.
And I know it's all incrementally kind of like telling my story, but this is now I'm here, you know, New York, and coronavirus.
To New York. Okay. I know, but I want them to know how you got to New York and like how you feel now with post, I mean, coronavirus, how you're dealing with it. Whatever you want to share. I'm listening. I'm fascinated by all of this. So
um, you know, it's such a tricky thing because whatever you say right now about it, it will be received according to what's the inner situation of the one perceives it.
absolutely. Yeah.
Um, am I feeling fine inside of myself? Absolutely, yes. Um, in terms of my relationship with myself amongst this thing, yes. Does it feel particularly good not to have freedoms that we enjoyed, having. Absolutely not. Observationally, um, I hope I'm not going to be like chased after that, but I find great excitement living in any times of change. I was born into a very serious political change in the world, and I was looking at it from the inside. And then I lived in China for 10 years, and I looked at things that are unimaginable from the inside, unimaginable from the perspective of culture, from the perspective of the change of, you know, 30 years ago, China was a poor country, and then the Industrial Revolution, and what Industrial Revolution, what implications it had, and how it is imprinted in culture, you know, that was very fascinating because that was also observing the change. And then now I'm here, even though my biggest performances of this like years that was supposed to happen and they were canceled, in like Paris, on the biggest arena in Paris, all of that. Even though this really sucks, but at the same time, I'm also having an opportunity to see the evolution of the world, and this it implies beautiful and ugly things together.
Exactly.
So that's why it's like semantics is such a thing with these interviews, and this is not my first language neither. So I never want to say something offensive by accident. Um, I'm not happy because all of this happened. Yeah, I'm not happy and I'm not wishing for this to be going on. But at the same time, I'm finding I wouldn't say good side. I'm just imagining what if I read this story, because very often we are reading a story of someone's life when it's already in a linear, like point of birth, point of death, right? So it's very linear. And when we read it and it's like, okay, so this fragment, it was there, it was there, it was there. And sometimes I'm thinking, how did they feel? How did they look at those changes that they lived through? And this is fascinating. So I guess when right now we're living through these changes,
Yeah,
I'm imagining that it's a blessing to be able to observe all of it before it became a history,
absolutely.
before it became linear. That's what I'm trying to put into words.
Absolutely. And you said it perfectly because that's exactly what I feel. I feel like, wow, we're in history right now. This is history. So when this blows over, or if it does ever, but we will remember when it started and living through it and all the changes and how everything evolves to when it ends or if it whatever. So these are monumental times, good and bad. And
How do you feel? You've asked me, and I gave you like super partially vague, not very specific answer that I, wrestled to bringing to the point. But how about you?
I myself, I feel I've kind of like trained for this to be like ready as far as like from a 3D standpoint, like thinking, like strategizing how to like, make sure things are prepared. But internally, spiritually, I feel like this is a really uh, important shift spiritually for a lot of different people. And for some people, they're not ready, and it's hard. And again, like it's not easy for me other day, every day. I do feel limited in some things, and I'm not used to having my freedoms being taken. But I've learned how to focus more on going within and finding peace within, and not seeking external sources for happiness. Like if you're happy inside, that's all you need, whether it's with a partner or not. Like it's really important to make sure that you're good inside first, and therefore you can reflect out. And so some days I'm feeling, some days I feel really strong and great, and some days I feel like, oh, okay, I have to get through this hump. Um, From the online social media perspective, I feel like I see people bonding and connecting more now than ever, which is beautiful. But I am going to say that I'm very disappointed with humanity on the streets. Like when I go to the store and people are super paranoid and telling me to get away from them, and I feel like there's no humanity. It seems like I feel like everybody's out for themselves, and I'm just like, you guys need to wake up and really educate yourself about what's going on. And my thing is like, of course, be cautious and mindful, but don't feed into the vibration of fear. Like you have to keep your vibrations high and strong. Like you have to be like a warrior now, more now than ever. And this is a test for everybody. And you know what? I keep on saying it. This situation is going to show you how really people really are. Like you think you have friends, you're going to see how they really treat you in this situation. You're going to see how your partner's treating you, how your family treat you. In these situations, you're going to see the ugliness and the realness come out. And this is a test for all of us. And so
I
I'm like,
I agree with that.
I'm learning every day, but I want to be better every day. So I'm willing to take my hits and be like, learning something. You know what? I took that learning lesson. Now I'm going to apply it and downloading so I'm better every day. But there are some people out there that are not ready. And you know what? Their real face is coming out. And so, like I said, like this is a test for everybody, but I can say that I'm quite disappointed with where humans are. Like out in the street shopping for food, you see how people are. Nobody's saying hello. How you doing? Hey, how can we help you? Like everybody's, oh, stay away from me. And it's like I feel like the media, what are you gonna? It's just putting people in fear, and they're creating a new reality where we're not even connecting physically anymore. And it's like,
Lamont, but this is also, America is a very young country.
yeah,
It's not it's probably the first experience like this, here.
yeah,
So it's also something new. That's why sometimes I'm thinking that, when there's something new and we haven't done it before, you know, like the very first try of doing something for the first time, often ugly, right?
mhm,
So I have a hope that, it's a process that implies the learning, right? Like
yeah,
I'm basically trying to, as much as possible, you know, give give people a shot again, you know,
good,
because it's very, very like disappointment is always around.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's true. But like I said, people are probably going through their own, excuse my French, shit. They're going through their own burdens right now. But I hope that people learn from this situation, how to be more appreciative and more grateful for things they have, or how they wasn't grateful before, but now they wish they were more grateful back then in the situation where things were normal. And so, yeah, I just hope that things get better and we start focusing more on love instead of fear and disconnection. Like more of like, okay, let's keep our immune system strong. Okay, government should be saying, hey, eat right, eat this, make sure your immune system is strong, work out, focus on love, focus on happiness, focus on compassion. And all I hear is fear, fear, fear. And I'm really blunt and say it. There's a lot of sheeple out there. People just feed into the media, and you know what? They just like believe it, and then that's it. Like they're not even thinking like critically. There's no more common sense. People are just saying, "Oh, I should just be inside all day." When there's information, there is information out there stating what's happening, what you can do, and people are just blindly listening to the media about everything, and nobody's asking questions. Like nobody has brains, so that's just kind of where I am. I'm just kind of just disappointed in um, that perspective, but I do see a lot of beauty online of people connecting, and there are some conscious people out there sharing and connecting and building. Um, yeah, but I guess that's just the balance, and I'm like I felt I want to be on the balance of light and compassion and strength And yeah, we have a question. Man, there was never a lot of common sense. It was just easier to be dumb in a crowd. Good point. Uh, I mean, you know, there are some conscious people out there, but there are a lot of dummies.
I want to point out that right now, opinion as a phenomena became very even more dangerous, because we have some more. I don't know how to read it like this.
Someone wrote, this is out of Tales. This is the thing. You took our style, and that's okay because you took it.
I took your style. I will elaborate on that. Who
No,
took your style?
talking about me as in cyber yoga. This is a b-boy. Tails, this is the thing. You took our style, that's okay because you took it to another level. And I can admit the idea of cyber yoga is cool, but still, I want you to compete to make it. I will, brother. Thank you for the concern. I still battle and I will, but right now I feel like cyber yoga is meant for sharing information to empower people's bodies and minds and spirits, not just about focusing on battling somebody, putting them down, but make it more of like a statement. It's a state of mind. It's more physical practice. Okay, so
Okay,
back.
can I say something about it too?
Yes, please.
Because it's been a theme of people battling over who took somebody's styles, but usually people are stealing mine. So so I'm just saying, but the what I think what I think was a little bit out of context about cyber yoga, when I worked with cyber yoga as a brand 2 years ago, we were surrounded by the top of the world in breakdancing, in and variety of different dancing disciplines. I'm not gonna name names because also for the sake of the project, we won't go into all the details. And what Lamont brought to the table was so beyond the any art form that could have been slightly resembling the style. And he was so articulate in terms of what is his message and why is he there. So to me, cyber yoga and Lamont is truly original. And you know,
Appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I kept it real and just it's been my style. Uh, yeah, yeah. You said it clearly. It's like I'm not emulating anybody.
this is what it was for me. And it was a very, it was a very big project with big names, rightfully.
Yeah. He said, Tails, you know who I am. Yeah, I know who you are, and you know she doesn't know, but just remember, I want you to compete. You don't have to put it someone down, just show it can be used in original form. I agree with you. When there is,
That's a fair point.
yeah, I will. And thank you for sharing that GL3000. Thank you for the input, and it's appreciated. I will compete cyber yoga in competitions and um, ceremonies, online, whatever, movement battles, competitions, I will represent Cyber Yoga to the fullest. So thank you for putting that out there. I appreciate that. And Silvana, thank you for the kind words. Um, okay.
You know what I've just experienced? I think it was an evolutionary experience, actually. That it's happening live, you
Yeah,
know? And two things I personally learned in here, because there's no way, like there's no playback and
yeah,
we all are reacting real time, is how um, it's how a person articulated and then how you responded. And I also had an opportunity to say something, and you were still very um, cool and contained, and you really connected and had a conversation. And I wish that martial artists at this point, like, I wish martial arts as a collective, because collective group was at that point as well, because the styles emerging, but modernists and traditionalists are still fighting. and the modern forms are being copied without reference, a lot as well. And it's such an interesting phenomenon to observe that in a dance world, the conversation actually could be opened, that there could be a statement and an answer is, there could be the flowing conversation,
And
it's very interesting.
as you say this, I feel like you could actually do this. You can actually talk about this, and you could base a conversation around this. Like I feel like this is a perfect time um, situation to be present with what's happening, and you can apply this message to your people and say, and like share that, because I feel like this is why I do this, so we can all connect and get really deep on like beyond surface level like conversation, but really go deep and like pull things out, and who knows, like things can evolve from there. So I feel like you have a great point that you just stated, that you really want this to happen, and I feel like you can actually do this. You can do that. You can share this.
You mean you're talking about me potentially interviewing people as well?
About this subject, about how you feel that even in the martial arts community, everything is compartmentalized and there's no coming together. I feel like you can do that. There's another reason for you to even start your own platform and talk about it, and even like just touch on it. And who knows, have somebody come on, have somebody from different backgrounds, martial arts, get their viewpoint, and you guys have a dialogue and a discussion, and who knows where it can go. But I feel like this is something here, and thanks to Geo, this actually um, transformed into this dialogue.
The,
So it's amazing how things happen. So I look at everything as a learning lesson. I'm not like oblivious to seeing signs. No, I'm like, that's an obvious sign. So I'm gonna use that. Wow, that's ammunition. So
we have some commenting.
um, there is a false feeling of togetherness in the MA community. What is MA? Oh yeah,
Martial art.
yes, exactly. Again, he just said it. He just stated that. So I feel like, thank you for confirming. What are your thoughts about it, Silvana?
I think right. The
Okay, I'll read it. From Mao Mushu, he wrote, I think the variety of martial arts is a lot complex since everyone has his one personal view. Yeah, well, I'll let you answer that.
I think it's a very multi-layered question, and I recently gave an interview to Drive Kung Fu Drive-In podcast. It's the biggest Kung Fu platform, which, by the way, the interviewer Jeff is amazing. It's the person that is so invested into not only martial arts but also in doing preparation for those interviews. It's a truly remarkable podcast. You see, in martial arts, there's a worshiping. Okay, I use the word worshiping. I know that it's controversial, but like this is just how I feel. It's like worshiping one person that, let's say, okay, one person, Bruce Lee, that was truly remarkable human being, male species human being, okay, right? That brought his amazing message to us, right? At some point of time. And thank you, Bruce Lee, thank everything. Right now, there are different times, and we may need to look into a different messages. Imagine that at that time there was a message of Fist of Fury. Do we really need an energy of Fist of Fury right now? There is a different message. So the art form should evolve to fit the messages that need to be brought to the world right now. And the messages right now about the expression and about the journey within. But to express the journey within, you need to be open to look into yourself for answers, not to just blindly worship somebody who had his own amazing journey and lived it to the fullest, and just apply this to yourself as a teachings. I feel it's the timing where you are your teacher.
There you go. I love that. Absolutely. Well stated. We have another question from T and V Martial Arts, same guy. Martial arts, most teaching is out money, adding false value. There is so much crap.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Because it is what it is. And also when they give belts for kung fu, do you know what it is? First of all, kung fu is the word for wushu, which that doesn't mean wushu. It's just a term that became famous in the West. So kung fu means the highest level of perfection, the mastery.
Mm.
So being great yogi is a kung fu. So Lamont reached the level of his kung fu is yoga. So this is what's the meaning of the word. But this word is used to actually speak of the martial art that is called wushu.
Ah,
Wu means warrior, shu means art.
that's
Okay, so about the false value though. So, for example, in the West, karate was more popular and came here earlier. So, karate has a belt system, right? So, every belt people pay for exams and all of that, all the commercial part of learning. So, right now, this is applied to Kung Fu, but originally, in Wushu in China, there's no belts,
mm, wow. I learned
I,
something
I
new.
know, I know. It's interesting. We have something, but
Okay,
I'm just
uh, uh, question from Sheriff underscore Surfskate. I think Point Break XXR movies that kind of say that message of sports coming together like a mandala. That was from Sharif Surfskate. You want to answer that really fast? And then we have a couple more questions, so I want to address everybody. Um,
Well, like a mandala, are you referring to mandala as a basically as a geometrical form? Are you referring to the idea of mandala as a sand mandala that is being created and destroyed, which is supposed to send a message that everything is for the process other than for results? So I think the question is not stated specifically enough for me to know which direction to go, right?
yeah. We have something from West. Shockley, LMT Shockmar. Oren. Tradition for some can become doctrine. Anything to say about that one? West.
Yes, I can say that doctrine can become like a very tight underwear.
Hi, Kai.